Hey everybody, my name is Trent, and this is Updates by Trent, where I've been talking about everything that's happening in the world. But lately, I've been talking about this United States debt, and I've been trying to explain what has been going on, and I've been trying to explain to everybody why it's so important. It's extremely important, even though it's not something that has been brought up on a daily basis. They don't really talk about it in school. It's not really too much of a known fact, and when they do talk about it, they usually brush it aside like it's normal. It's really not normal to have debt accumulated this high. So, let's get down to explanation. So, the United States is at 35.7 trillion. Okay? And let's just put this into factor. The United States has been in debt since 1776, and they have continued to be in debt the whole time. I believe there was only 1 year where they actually managed to get rid of their debt fully. A president you may know, his name is President Andrew Jackson. He's on the 20, and I would say for about a year he actually got rid of the debt. But you know, the guys in Washington and New York and the bigwigs, they love to take on debt, and it shows. And really, what I want to talk to you guys about is it going to really be a big deal that we have this much debt? Or is it just something that everybody is blowing smoke about? Me personally, I think having debt could be a good and a bad thing. It just depends on if you're able to sustain the economy or not. And personally, I would say the United States is doing a very poor job at sustaining the economy, because nothing's really being built, nothing's being fixed, everything's too expensive, our dollars aren't really worth anything, and on top of that, we are, all of us, we're all struggling. So there's not really too many things you can say that the United States is doing well, or you can't really say that the money they're taking from us is getting put to good use. And that's another thing I want to talk about. So the United States is spending way more than it's earning. It's spending about 7 trillion, and it's only making about 4.9 trillion. It doesn't take a genius to know that that isn't sustainable. On top of that, every year they're taking on new interest. They've just hit 1 trillion in interest. That means they have to pay 1 trillion every year. So that's $1 trillion that can be going to the United States for, new schools, new hospitals, this, that, and the third. Fix my potholes in front of my house, And it's just not going to happen because the interest keeps accumulating higher and higher and higher. And I believe sometime between now and 2030, there's going to be a huge collapse. And the reason for this is because the interest that the United States is taking on is mandatory. They have to pay it. They can't just cut their interest. They can't cut the interest that they're being forced to pay. They can only tax us higher or cut things that they're spending, like Medicare, or Social Security, or their war budget, or something else that we're not gonna like, right? And on top of that, there's really only two options. Either they find a way to make more money, which is going to be taxing us, the people that work, or it's going to be cutting something like I said, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, something from the most expense. And those are the most expenses in the United States. I know this because of the research I do. The United States debt clock, you can see it there. There's a few other websites, the US Treasury. Alright, so there's a few things I want to get everybody to understand before I end the video. First, the United States debt, 35.7 trillion. They're spending 7 trillion. We're only getting 4.9 trillion. If we want things to change, they're either going to have to increase the income or decrease the spending. and most of their spending is coming from defense, Social Security, and Medicare, Medicaid. And most of the income is coming from us taxpayers, which is about 2/3 of the United States income. And I don't know about you, but I don't really want my taxes raised, but I also don't want our Social Security or our Medicare taken. So it kind of leaves us in a pickle. What are they gonna do? Well, they're probably gonna end up printing more money. They're gonna go more into debt, and then the interest is gonna keep rising and rising and rising to the point where they're forced to pay more interest than they're getting in income, or at least close to it, because you got to remember they still have to spend on all types of other things, Medicare, Medicaid, and those are just the four things that I mentioned: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, interest, and the defense war budget. That's only four of the main things they're spending money on. They have a bunch of other things that they're spending money on too. And at this point, I believe in maybe 4 to 6 years, they're gonna have a problem because they're gonna be paying more interest than they're getting in income. And at that point, either they're gonna have to default on their debt, which is gonna leave the economy in shambles, or something is gonna change. Leave a comment down below if you have an idea on what might change if this does happen. Personally, I think it'll be a huge recession or some type of depression, or maybe even a collapse of the United States. We won't know until we get there, but I truly feel like it's coming, everybody. I can feel it, and numbers don't lie. Once the United States is forced to pay more money than they're getting, the United States is going to go broke. And there's really nothing they can do about it. So basically, I believe they're going to end up defaulting, or we're going to have some type of United States collapse. Maybe something like Rome, back in the day. But anyway, this video's been going on long enough. If you're still here, thank you. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And for my next videos, I am going to be bringing up a few other things. I'm going to go more into detail about the United States debt crisis and how it's affecting us. And on top of that, I have some new things to talk about. I don't know if you've heard of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I believe it's South Africa. They are really making a movement in the southern globe. I will go more into detail on what they are, who they are, and what they're doing. And if you've also heard of G7, they're also another international organization that is part of the Western world. But anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining my video. And I hope you have a good night. See you later.